Hello everyone and welcome to the Explaining Papists. Today we will be covering the First Crusade, remarkable for being the first uniform Catholic invasion of the Holy Land. First, we need to go back to the origin of the religious conflict which kickstarted the First Crusade. In the early 600s AD, a new religion, Islam, emerged from the Arabian Peninsula. Quickly capturing much of the Middle East and North Africa, it soon became the primary rival of the Byzantine Empire, which was the most powerful Christian state at the time. At first, the Byzantines were able to put up a fight against the Muslims, but over the next few centuries they continued to slip in power. As all of this was ongoing, a new power, the Seljuk Turks, invaded the Middle East, converting to Islam and becoming the new rival of the Byzantine Empire, defeating them at the Battle of Manzikert in 1071.
As the Byzantines saw their empire being severely threatened by the Seljuks, the Byzantine Emperor Alexios Komnenos called for help from the West. It is important to note that a few decades earlier, in 1054, Eastern Christianity for the most part had split from the Latin-dominated Catholic Church, forming the Eastern Orthodox Church. This was a result of several disagreements, both theological and political, but left a rift in relations between the head of Catholicism, the Pope, and the de facto head of Orthodoxy, the Byzantine Emperor. Now, with the Byzantines under threat, Pope Urban II saw an opportunity to reassert Catholic dominance and sway the Easterners towards reconciliation.
With all of this in mind, Urban II, after two ecumenical councils, finally decided to call a crusade for the Holy Land, wanting the political benefits as well as the religious ones of owning the holy city of Jerusalem. However, while Urban II intended for the crusade to be an organized military campaign, the common folk had other ideas. Several months before the scheduled invasion date, the 15th of August, 1096, poor people under the leadership of Peter the Hermit decided to take matters into their own hands and try to take the Holy Land themselves. However, these so-called crusaders had very poor discipline and ended up plundering the Belgrade area before arriving in Constantinople. After several more such incidents, including an altercation in which Alexios himself was involved, the Crusaders reached Seljuk lands and were promptly massacred.
Now, while all of this was happening, what were the actual Crusaders doing? Well, mostly pillaging and massacring Jews. But eventually, the Crusaders got their crap together and organization actually began. Four Crusader armies arrived first, these being the ones led by Hugh de Vermandois, Bohemond of Taranto, Godfrey of Bouillon, and the Parental forces led by Raymond of Toulouse. Troops were recruited from every corner of Europe as faithful Catholics flocked to the banners of Christ. As the Crusaders arrived at Constantinople, they swore allegiance to Alexios and marched on the city of Nicaea to liberate it from Seljuk hands. After successfully completing this, the Crusaders continued on through Anatolia and again defeated the Seljuks at Dorylaeum after a close call.
After victories in Anatolia, some of the Crusaders diverged towards Armenian Cilicia, led by Count Baldwin of Verdun. Seeking his own fiefdom in the region following a Crusader victory, Baldwin won several victories against Seljuk forces, with significant support from the local Armenian Christian population. Taking the town of Mamistra, Baldwin and his co-leader Tancred situated themselves as key players in Cilician politics, and soon received envoys from the Armenian noble Thoros of Edessa, asking for help fighting the Seljuks. Marching to Edessa, Baldwin was attacked by Seljuk forces, but reached the city safely, even getting Thoros to adopt him as a son. Eventually, most likely with the support of Baldwin, Thoros was overthrown in a riot, and Baldwin was made the ruler of the city, creating the first Crusader state.
As this was all happening, the rest of the Crusader army marched down to the ancient city of Antioch, a secondary target of the crusade. Several relief armies attempted to make their way to secure Antioch, but they were unable to defeat the Crusaders. While many Crusaders ended up dying of starvation during the siege, with the help of the Christian majority in the city, they were able to finally enter and capture Antioch, massacring the local Muslim population in the process.
After capturing Antioch, the Crusaders continued along the coast, attempting to capture the town of Arca, which ended up being unsuccessful. The Crusaders then continued along to Jerusalem. Now, it's important to note that the Seljuks at this point were no longer actually held the Holy City. In fact, it had been recaptured from them by the Egyptian Fatimids. The Fatimids did not want to fight the Crusaders. Instead, they offered them free passage for the pilgrims and rights in the territories in exchange for leaving them alone. Now, this was refused, and the Crusaders continued their march, finally arriving at Jerusalem in 1099.
The Crusaders knew that a Fatimid relief army was imminent, and they therefore had to hurry up and capture the city as soon as possible. The initial Crusader attack failed, and they therefore decided to launch a more organized invasion into the city. Siege engines were constructed for the Crusaders, and after a pious sermon from priest Peter Desiderius, they entered into a 3-day fast to prepare for the attack. After the fast, the Crusaders again rallied against the city, launching an assault and successfully breaking through. Many defenders and local Muslim inhabitants were killed as the Crusaders asserted their control over the city.
With the capture of Jerusalem, the First Crusade was coming to an end. The Crusade leaders chose a king of Jerusalem, with the title eventually going to Godfrey. A Fatimid army attempted to defeat the Crusaders at the Battle of Ascalon and reassert their control over the Holy Land, but this failed, and the Crusade was won. Christianity once again controlled the Holy City. But for how long? Thanks for watching. We'll see you next time. This was the Explaining Papists.